Hey guys, so it is the middle of September now, and I have finally finished I finished 2 books at the beginning of September, but I wrapped those up in August. So I did just finish the first book, really, since I did my wrap up. And that was The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, and I listened to that on audiobook, and it was so good. It was just ridiculously good. Like, the first one in this trilogy I liked, but this one I loved. I was just super into it, and I can't even really talk a whole lot about it just because it's the second book in a trilogy, and it's the second trilogy in like a greater arc of a story or of like a land. But I'm so into this, and way more than I was with the Farseer trilogy, just because I'm so interested in some of the like mystery things. We find out more about the Elderlings, or a little bit more. It's like we're getting little tastes of who the Elderlings were, and that is so incredibly fascinating. And I think that's my favorite part of all of them so far. And it's just, I don't know, things got really intense really fast near the end of the book. I do still feel like this book could have been like 150 pages shorter, but still, so much happened, and Robin Hobb has got me just like sucked in, and I'm trying to decide if I want to carry on straight into the last book in the trilogy right now, or if I want to give myself a little break and do an audiobook of another book that I've been meaning to get to, because I was supposed to be reading, buddy reading Eleanor and Park with Elena this week, and I have totally slacked because I've not been doing a whole lot of actual reading, just audiobook listening for the most part. So I may start that, I don't know. But yeah, so first book down for September, and it was incredible. Incredible. So after I read The Mad Ship, I did end up going on to read Ship of Destiny, and it was fantastic. It was definitely a incredible last book in the trilogy, and there were so many things that I learned about that kind of tied it to the Farseer trilogy that made it so exciting and made me really excited to move on to the Tawny Man trilogy and to just sort of see how this greater arc comes together in the end. There were definitely moments that I was screaming, "What?" And I was sending Voxer messages to Sam being like, oh my gosh, because I was just freaking out about it. The Elderlings sound so fascinating, and there were characters that came full circle for me that I just really didn't like in the beginning, that I ended up just absolutely loving in the second book, in the third book. And yeah, I definitely liked this trilogy better than the Farseer trilogy, and I definitely liked this book the best of all of them. Well, maybe The Mad Ship I liked better. I don't know, but I really enjoyed just how so many things came together, and just the way that Robin Hobb tells stories is so fantastic, and she plays with your emotions. There was one thing in this book that I really was not a fan of, and I didn't think it added to the story, so I didn't think it needed to be there. But, you know, that happens. It was a little long again. Some of her books I do feel like could be shorter, but overall I really liked Ship of Destiny and the entire Live Ship Traders trilogy. Hey guys, well, I am severely failing at this, wrapping up books as I go, because I finished Commonwealth quite a few days ago and I haven't talked about it yet. But I'm sitting here with my smoothie, which it's like a smoothie subscription service. If you've never heard of this, I had never heard of it. It's a really weird concept. They arrive on your doorstep packed with dry ice, and they're kind of pricey for what they are, but I had a coupon code, so I tried it. They're good, so I like them, and I would definitely recommend it if you're into smoothies and healthy eating and things being made easy for you. But anyways, that's completely irrelevant. So, talking about Commonwealth, it was really good. I had high expectations just because, you know, it's Ann Patchett and she hasn't put out a book in a while. The last book or fiction book that she put out was State of Wonder, which I absolutely adored. I think probably Commonwealth falls just behind State of Wonder in my kind of list of how I would rate her books. I really, really enjoyed it, and it is a wonderful kind of like family saga that's sort of like a slow burn kind of book. I feel like I could have probably sat down and read it in a weekend. I didn't want to because I wanted to kind of savor it. But it is about this family who, at the beginning, they are kind of, it's two families, and then something happens between the parents in two different families, and it ends up creating this crazy blended family of children who don't really like each other, but they put up with each other. And the first part of the book is kind of about how this unfolds and the children's relationships as they're growing up and some of the crazy antics they get into. And then we kind of fast forward. It jumps around a lot in time, so if that's something you don't like, then this might not be for you. But I didn't find it to be jarring, just because it still sort of followed a sequence of events. It was just sort of roughly laced together by this one kind of traumatic event that happened, and we don't find out until much later exactly what happened. But you follow Franny as she's older, and she's the child at the beginning of the book. She's a baby being christened at the beginning of the book. And we follow her as she is in this relationship with an author who then takes her story and writes a novel, and it becomes a bestseller, and kind of the implications of that on her family. And it was really fascinating, and I liked it, and I'm going to do a review of it, or like a 4 reasons why you should read it kind of thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it definitely held up. And I'll talk about this more in my review, but I feel like reading her nonfiction before reading this one really helped me get into the book a lot better, because you understand some things about where Anne comes from as a writer writing this book. Yeah. I finished, I don't even know how many books. This has turned into September and October, because I think I only finished 2 books in in September, or 1, I don't even know. But I finished the 8th book in the Animorph series, which was The Alien, which is the first book that is narrated by Axe, the Andalite, and it was really good. I liked it because it's kind of like a departure from the earlier kind of 7 books. And also you get a little bit more insight on the Andalites and kind of what's going on in there. Like what happened to make this sort of problem happen. And also kind of how the Andalites are handling things and their philosophies, which is interesting. It also made me think, I don't know how many of the books I actually read when I was in middle school, because I remembered some things about this book, but mostly I remembered them from the actual TV show that was on Nickelodeon, and I don't really remember a whole lot of reading that book. So I'll be interested going forward to the next book, to book 9, to see if I remember anything from that one, because I'm starting to think maybe I read like 7 of them and then just stopped reading them, which is terrible considering there's like 50 of them or something in the series. So who knows, I definitely am not sure. But I plan to try to read all of them as an adult, because I'm really enjoying them as kind of like a mental break. And also just, they're fun and they're well written for what they are as far as being middle grade books. Catherine Applegate is pretty amazing, so yeah. So I have 2 books to talk about. I finished The Tea Planner's Wife, and it was pretty good. It started off really kind of mesmerizing and atmospheric, and then it just started getting muddled. It was one of those books where it felt like the author was trying to do too much. So it was like political intrigue, family drama, blackmail, class kind of tension, racial tension. it was all of these things, business problems, the Great Depression. It just, I mean, it was so many big topics in such a small book that it was sort of like, what am I supposed to be concerned about? And it just felt like none of them were really done to their fullest. I liked the book, but I didn't really love it. I thought that the descriptors of Ceylon were beautiful, and the actual kind of atmosphere that was created was really wonderful. And some of the characters were pretty strong. There was just too freaking much going on in that book, honestly. And then tonight I actually finally finished Winter, the last book in the Lunar Chronicles. I started that sometime last year after it came out in November, and I'm just now finishing it. I read 200 pages when it first came out and then put it down for like 6 or 8 months. And then recently I saw that my library had a audiobook copy of it, the CD ones, which I didn't even know you could get CD versions of audiobooks at the library anymore, but apparently you can. So I have been listening to that in my car for the past couple weeks because I wanted to finish that book and get it off of my TBR and to be done with the series. That book could have been half the size it was. It was like 820 pages, and it could have been a 400-page book, maybe a 500-page book. There was so much unnecessary crap in that book. There were so many times that it was like, this person might be dying, and instead of giving them the life-saving thing that they need, we're standing here talking about the way they look and how we felt about them for years upon years, and how we just can't bear to watch them die. And it was like, just freaking give them what they need. It was just, there were so many times I was so infuriated because I was just like, can we just get on with it? And there were just all these scenes that didn't need to be there. So much build up to what was really kind of, I mean, I don't want to say anticlimactic, because the actual climax of the book and the series was actually really well done, and I liked how how the final kind of confrontation happened, and I thought she did a really good job. It was realistic, and as realistic as it can be for the subject matter, and I thought that the way that the book ended was really nice. There was just so much unnecessary build up. I really just did not think a lot of it was necessary, and there were so many perspectives that you were just constantly being tossed back and forth throughout the story and across different worlds, and so it was just, that got frustrating too. Again, the climax of the book was really, and series was really good, but overall that book could have been significantly shorter.